Hey, Miles here, milesbeckler.com, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to speed up your WordPress site using a CDN and a caching plugin. Now, this is the second video in a series. The first video, we went into a Pagespeed tool to essentially identify the opportunities to speed up my WordPress website. My site was graded as straight D's in that tool. I'll make sure a link for that pops up here. If you haven't done the tests on your site yet, I recommend running those tests, following that video so you can see exactly what needs to get fixed. But with that said, just about every single WordPress website will benefit from the use of a CDN and a caching plugin. So that's what I'm going to show you how to get set up here in this video. But before we jump in, I want to help you understand what exactly is a CDN and what exactly is a caching plugin so you understand how this is going to benefit your website. So number one, CDN is a content delivery network. And an analogy I've got is, let's say you're looking to fill up a swimming pool and you've got one hose to fill up the swimming pool. It's going to take a long time for all of the water to flow through that one hose to fill up the swimming pool. The analogy here is that your web server is essentially filling up the user's browser with your website's data, and it's coming from one single source, which is straight from your web server. If you are able to add on 3 or 4 additional hoses to help fill up that swimming pool, you're going to simply cut down on the amount of time it's required to get all of the water needed in that swimming pool. A CDN, or a content delivery network, is a series of cloud-based servers that essentially assist your website in loading quickly for the user. So what happens is many of your HTML pages and many of your static pieces of content and your images, etc., are loaded from third-party web servers, so your web server isn't the only one bearing the load. It's able to compile everything on your web server, but it can source the pieces from different places, giving it essentially more speed and a quicker page load time. The second item is a caching plugin. Caching is essentially creating a static version of your website components that don't change. So on my website, on my homepage, for example, the top navigation, the headshot of me, my opening intro phrase, the lower text, my footer, none of that content changes. That's always the same content. Now, in between those pieces, I have what's called my blog roll, where my website goes and pulls my 6 most recent blog posts. It pulls the thumbnail and the titles and the basic descriptions. So that's dynamic content, okay? So caching pre-builds static versions of your pages, so when a user visits your website, most of the page is already built and ready. All that needs to get added are those dynamic components. This increases the page load time as well. I hope that makes sense. It is techie stuff, right? There's no way around. This is kind of a technical update to a website, but we're essentially adding leverage from other servers to give us ability to more quickly load the components, and we're preloading our static content on our web page on our server so it can load more quickly, so when a user visits, it doesn't have to build every single component on that page for the user. It simply adds in the dynamic content and displays from a series of high-performance servers that content. Okay, that's it for the explanation. What we're going to do now is we're going to jump on the laptop. I'm going to show you the exact tools I'm using. I've already got it configured and installed, so I'm just going to give you a rundown on where to go and what to do to get this configured and installed on your end, and then we'll take a look at the speed test at the end to see how this did, right? Because you saw just literally, I think 5 days ago, I ran the speed test once. I've made a few changes, and we'll see what the actual results are, because that's why we're doing this, is for greater, faster load times. And let me go ahead and load this. So the CDN, the content delivery network that I'm using for my website, and I highly recommend, is Key CDN. I am an affiliate. It's a credit-based system. I get like 1 credit when you sign up. milesbeckler.com/CDN is how you get here. And then the plugin that I'm using for cash-in is called WP Rocket. You can access this at milesbeckler.com/rocket. This is a paid caching plugin, and yes, there are some free ones. I've had nothing but challenges with the free ones. I've tried the really common free ones many times, and I'm always getting plugin conflicts. This is by far the easiest and fastest to set up. I think it's like $40 a year. Personally, it's in my best interest for, number one, ease of setup. I can get this thing set up and configured in, I mean, it automatically happens. I just upload the plugin and it works. So that's a huge value. But to know that there's a support team if I need help, and also people updating this, people who are paid to work on this plugin, to work on this, to keep it to be the fastest caching plugin on WordPress, I'm happy to pay them for that service. So once you purchase the plugin, you'll be able to get access to your account, and it's really simple. You can purchase it for one site if you've got one site, and you come in and you simply download the zip file, because you're going to upload that as a plugin to your website. In the CDN itself, once you get signed up, you get 1 free credit when you sign up from my affiliate link. That'll give you, I think, up to 2 weeks and 1 free credit. So you'll be able to get this configured and tested for free. When you do want to kind of stay on, you need to go under billing here and purchase credits. You need to purchase something like $49 minimum worth of credits, and then I set mine up to auto rebill when I am out of credits. And the reason for this is I want to build this, I want to configure it, I want to set it, and I want to forget it, and it's going to automatically populate for me month after month, or if it takes 3 months to use my credits, whatever that is, it's based on how much essentially traffic you are delivering. So you can see right here, 1.22 terabytes of data is what I have purchased with my $49 worth of credits. So this is essentially just a graph of how much I've used. You can see I got it configured the other day, and I'm just now starting to use 0.04 credits I've used in the first day this has been running. So how do you get this set up? The first thing you're going to do here is inside of the CDN network, you want to go under the zones, and you want to create a zone. And you're creating a pull zone. Now mine is already created. You can see I've told it where my URL is. There's one kind of variation on how you go about this. If you're running HTTPS, if your WordPress is secure, there's like 2 extra steps for you to make sure that they're delivering your items securely. If you're not running HTTPS, it's literally like 3 clicks and you're set up and you're done, and you're up and running. So the first thing you want to do is create your zone. You simply name it what you want. You tell it what your URL it comes from is. I'll show you what that looks like in this screen here. So this is what it looks like when you create a new one. It's just manage. I just use my name because that's my domain name, active, the pull type, and then here in the origin URL, if yours is HTTP and you're not HTTPS, make sure that says HTTP. If yours is HTTPS, if your website is running on HTTPS, make sure it's in there, and then you would go under the advanced features, and then down here you'll see that there you need to actually enable a shared SSL, and that's actually going to be pretty much what you need to do to configure it. I think I had to enable it to force SSL for my SSL also, and again, that's only if you're running an SSL. So it takes a few minutes for this to get set up. Once you create your zone, what you're saying is you go in through your CDN account and you're telling it my website's over here. The CDN is going to connect to your website and go download and essentially host on its servers all of the different components of static items, HTML files, images, CSS files, etc. Those all get hosted here on your CDN. So it takes 5 minutes or 10 minutes for that configuration to get set up. You'll notice the status here will turn to active once it's ready. The SSL, if you've got it disabled, this will be a gray button, but since I've got it enabled, it's a green button that shows me we're good to go. Once your zone is active, then we go in and we install the WP Rocket. So you just simply go in through the plugins, you add new, you install it. It's installs like every other plugin. And then you'll see you now have under settings, there's the WP Rocket, and then here up top you have the WP Rocket, and we'll go inside of settings. What we need to do is go here under the CDN tab. Yours will probably come up in the basic tab. I haven't changed anything else other than ticking the 2 mobile caching boxes, but you'll click on the CDN box. You need to enable the content delivery network, and then you put in your CDN name. This CDN name is what you got from, let me go back here. I'm in the edit zone. I need to go to the zone itself. Right here. So the zone URL, this milesbeckler.blah, yours is gonna be different, right? It'll be just kind of garbly goop that doesn't actually matter because this is their URL. It only matters that you get it right and you get it into place here. Once that's set up into place, you save it, and now your WordPress website through the caching plugin is configured to look at your content delivery network for the static items that it can draw from to save resources on your web server. That's really it. That's all we need to do. Now I want to show you, there's a lot of other kind of configurations you can do. There's this lazy load tool, which means it waits until the user scrolls down to the bottom of the page to load. I already have a lazy load plugin installed, so I'm not going to configure that yet. I might configure that and remove the other plugin just to keep my plugins thin. Like I said, I did set both checkboxes for mobile caching, and I've enabled the SSL caching. If you are working with SSL and your site's loading in, it doesn't look good when it loads, it's clearly missing some pieces, you can tick this box right here to disable the CDN on your HTTPS while you go into the support documents to figure out what little hiccup was missed there. I'll show you where to find that stuff right now. Once you have it set up and running and you think you've got it dialed in right, you want to go to a new incognito window. And then you're going to load your website. So I'm going to load milesbeckler.com. And we're going to let the page load. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click. I'm on Windows machine. I'm a view page source. If you're not on Windows, I don't know how to do that for you. You should know that if you use a computer other than Windows. And what I'm looking for here is, you notice all these links down here, my dashboard icons, my formidable forms. You notice it's all coming from my CDN. Right? So that means that my web server is, instead of going to the hard drive repeatedly and slowly picking up all the pieces, my web server is assembling all of these pieces from the CDN URL. If you still see your actual URL here, right, and you don't see the CDN name inside of here, something is not configured correctly, but this is how you know for sure once it's up and running. You look at the page source and you'll see that CDN information is all throughout here. You can see all the CDN stuff. Some things are still loading from my server, like this item here, but most of the components are loading from the CDN now at this point in time. One more thing I want to show you, there's 2 places for support with this kind of with these items. Number 1 is in the CDN tab under the WP Rocket. You can click here. It takes you to the docs.wp-rocket.me, and you can see they actually have a key CDN file here that shows you how to install and configure this with Key CDN. It takes you over to Key CDN. If you're inside of Key CDN here, they've got this getting started guide you can click on. It essentially walks you through the same content. One other place you can find the how-tos is under General CDN How-tos. This takes you into the knowledge base, and for example, if you're having problems with the SSL, you type in SSL, you search, and it'll tell you how to set up a shared SSL. There's the one little thing on SSL, there's a shared SSL and there's a custom SSL. I'm using a shared SSL, which means I'm running it off of their servers. If you use a custom SSL, you can kind of mask it with your subdomain. So you could have cdn.yourname. or yourdomain.com instead of the what I called garbly goop, right? It's xcz.milesbeckler.theirdomain.com. I'm okay running on their SSL server because all I care about is having that S on top of my website, the HTTPS. So what I mean here is if I wanted to go on a custom domain, this URL here, instead of it being their .com. It could be cdn.milesbeckler.com. I might configure that in the future, but ultimately I don't really care as long as this HTTPS works and I get the little lock up in the corner and my page loads correctly. If anything is not loading correctly and there's something misconfigured, the easiest way for you to go and kind of take a step back is to go inside of plugins and simply take the WP Rocket plugin, which will show up down here, and deactivate it. Once you deactivate it, it disconnects everything, it unties everything, and give yourself some breathing room. So there's no need to get stressed out if you try to set this up and get this running and it doesn't work correctly. The first time I tried to get this running, I had a challenge with, I was trying to use the custom CDN instead of the shared, the custom SSL setup instead of the shared. So I was messing everything up and I just turned the plugin off. And then I found, oh, I could just do the shared one. It's even easier. Turn it on and it works. The final thing I want to do now is I want to go in through I want to use this, I'm going to go check 2 page speeds and I want to use a incognito browser. The reason is when you're logged in, you can see I'm logged in here. If I just go to my website when I'm logged in, I'm actually going to see a little bit different version of my website than when I'm using it in an incognito browser. So we're going to go back to gtmetrics.com. And we're going to type in milesbeckler.com, except I'm going to go copy it. Let me see here. I'm just going to take the HTTPS, milesbeckler.com, because that's how my page loads. Got a colon in front of it. So before, I was, I don't want to say embarrassingly slow, but it wasn't a positive experience. I got a D and a D, and I think my load times were about 3.4 seconds for my homepage. So you can see they're a bit backed up right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of hold off here and wait for this to load, and I'll show you the results in a second. Okay, so now we have loaded the page, my homepage, through the kind of Pagespeed tool of GTmetrix. You can see I've now got a high B for my page speed score. My Y-Slow score is still a little bit slow. My load times are down by, I believe, over a second. I haven't looked exactly. I think it was either 3.4 or 3.6 seconds for my homepage to load. The total page size is under a meg. I like that. 76 requests could get lower, but all in all, this is much better than it was. You could see I'm now getting better grades on some of these items on the page speed. Under Y-Slow, there's still kind of room for growth, right? And it says it still thinks that I'm only doing okay on my content delivery network. I'm not sure exactly why that is, but these are things I can go look into. And it doesn't actually specify my CDNs, so it's something that what it's finding is there's additional items I could deliver via CDN, and I can see that here because it's showing me the Pinterest plugin, it's showing me some of my tracking and some of the certain items. Those may actually get loaded from the CDN over time. I may need to go configure them, or they're just possibly things I can ignore. Looking into my report, you'll notice this is really where you get that visual representation of the work that we've done. Just all of these items that are loading significantly faster, right? All of these images, I mean, these things were taking like 10 times as long to load, and you can see there's a lot of them. So my CDN has helped out massively. One thing I'm noticing is there's new items that are taking a long time to load. I can look at this item. I know that the 5 steps to build a successful online business, this is my newest blog post that's now showing up on my blog roll. I just published this last night, so it has not cached in the front end of my homepage, and that's okay. This line I fully expect once that's cached, and my plugin rebuilds my cache every 10 hours unless I go manually run that, this 573 millisecond line will probably become 53 or 12 milliseconds like these other ones do. And this is the game, so I can still go in farther. I can figure out what is this, more tracking code that's taking a while to load. I can still go deeper into some of these items if I want, but for me, I have made enough positive gains here in my page speed that I'm good with it. And I'm just going to let this run as is for a while. Whenever you're working with a caching plugin and a CDN, it's incredibly important for you to keep an eye on the workings of your website. Once you feel like you've got it configured, you think everything's working, I would definitely take time to load your homepage on a mobile device. I would load multiple pages and posts on mobile devices. Make sure everything looks good. Go through your opt-in sequence, test your funnels, because caching and these CDNs can sometimes goof things up. When you see things aren't working great, it's better for you to identify this yourself than to have people trying to go through and one helpful individual finally emailing you and saying, hey, your stuff's broken, which is great when people do that. So thank you if you've ever helped me in that way. I do appreciate that. So be proactive. And again, if things aren't working right, you can always deactivate the kind of WP Rocket plugin, and what that will do is put you in a position to kind of roll back any changes you made. It'll bring your site back up. Both WP Rocket and Key CDN, which you can get at milesbeckler.com/CDN, both of them have support teams. So you can reach out via email if you can't get things configured and figured out. That's why you're paying for these services, is not only for the services themselves, but to have support getting it all dialed in correctly. I hope this has been helpful. I do believe that a good caching solution and a good CDN is something that every content marketer needs on their website, because we as users on our smartphones, I mean, we demand things to load almost instantaneously now. And if they don't load quickly enough, we're clicking that back button, we're on to the next. So keep this all in mind. I hope this has been helpful for you. I recommend if you go down this path, spend a couple of days, a weekend, get in, do a big push, and then get out. And there's no need to revisit this stuff on an ongoing basis once it's configured. The only way I'm going to go back in here is, number one, if I'm noticing something on my website's loading really slowly from just kind of putting up new blog posts and go looking and doing quality assurance on my blog posts. If I notice things are loading slowly, I'll come in and take a look around. Or if I notice something's not working correctly, I'll come in and take a look around to figure out what's going on. But other than that, I'm going to ignore page speed for the next year plus and get back to what really moves the needle in my business, which is content marketing, list growth, etc., etc. If you've enjoyed this video, if you found it to be helpful, give me a thumbs up here in YouTube. If you have not yet subscribed, click the subscribe button so you can get access to my newest videos when I'm teaching you all about content marketing, internet marketing, and making money online. If you have subscribed, there's a little gray bell next to the subscribe button. If you click that bell, you'll get notified when my newest videos come out. And any questions, any comments, any ideas, hit me in the comments below. That's why they're there. I enjoy reading them, even if I can't get to answer every single one. I generally read pretty much every single one, and I do reply and respond as best I can. But one real quick, again, if you're having challenges getting this integrated into your website, use the support resources available from both of these companies. That's why they're there. That's why we pay for these tools, is so we can have support to help us out with it. They're there to help you integrate this and get this running on your website, and your site will run faster once you get this all figured out. Thanks again for your time, and I look forward to connecting with you on the next video. Until then, be well.